All right, so in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to learn about linear relationships on a graph, okay? And if I were to graph this and form a line, you would notice that this is a straight line. So that's what makes me know that this is a linear relationship, because this would be a straight line. And so what I'm going to do is I want to find out what is that constant rate of change when looking at this graph. So what I do is I'm going to use the points from the graph, and I'm going to make a table, okay? So I'm going to look at here, and I notice that my x value is the number of hours, because this is the x-axis. So I'm going to have the number of hours. All right. And then on the other side is going to be my y value, which is my money earned. Oh, money earned. Oh, I'm going to slide it over so that way you can see. Okay. So basically what I do is I start and try to find the value of the dot all the way to the left. And so I see here that for 4 hours, so when I look at this dot, I notice that it's on the 4. So for 4 hours, and then I go over to the left and I see that how much money it's earned. And so I see that's $40. Okay. So I go to the next dot to the right, which happens to be this one. All right. And I notice that the number of hours is 8. I got that from that one, and then I looked over here and see what number lines up with that on the y-axis, and that is 80. Okay, I'm going to go to the next dot, which is this one right here. So the number of hours is 12. The amount of money earned is $120. Go to the next one, which is this dot right here, which is 16 hours. And $160. And then I go to that last dot, which I see is 20 hours and $200 earned, because it lines up with the 200. So just like before, I want to go ahead and I want to find the constant rate of change. So again, I look at the value, the change here, and the number of hours. I notice that it went up by 4. Again, it went up by 4. It went up by 4. It went up by 4. So I notice each time this is exactly the same. So over here, I better notice the same amount each time also. So from 40 to 80 is $40. From 80 to 120 is $40. From 120 to 160 is $40. And 160 to 200 is $40. So yes, because the rate kept the same change here and kept the same change here, and they match each time, that's what lets me know this is a linear relationship. So I'm going to go ahead and write this as a constant rate of change. Keeping in mind the money earned is my y, the number of hours is x. So I look and I see that I'm going to put 40, because that was the change in the y value, over the change in the x value, which was 4. So I end up with $40 for every 4 hours. I can change that into a unit rate of 1 for every 1 hour, okay? Because if I take 4 and I divide it by 4, I get 1. So that means I take this and I divide this by 4 to find the unit rate, and I get $10. So based on this problem, for every 1 hour of whatever it is I do, I'm going to earn $10, all right? So then again, this would be what we call a positive linear relationship in a graph. So let's go ahead and look at a negative linear relationship in a graph, okay? So in this one, I'm going to look at the number of volunteers and the time. Again, notice that my x value is always down here on the graph. So my x value in this case is going to be the number of volunteers. So I'm going to write number of volunteers. And then my y value is the time in this one. So here's my y, here's my x. Okay? So again, I'm going to start all the way to the left. I noticed something in this graph. This one has something a little bit different. This is referred to as a break, and basically what it means is there's a break in the numbers from when I'm doing the number over here on increments. So it's just a break from 0 to this one right here. So I notice here it goes 40 to 60 in 2 lines. From this one, it went from 0 to 40. So that's maybe why that break is there, because to show there's a bigger difference and a little bit of a break in here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and look at this. I'm going to look at the dot all the way to the left first. I notice it's this dot right here. So I look at that dot and I look at the X value. So I go all the way down and I notice it is an 8. So the number of volunteers, 8. Okay. And I look to the left and that gives me 80. Then I go to the next dot to the right, which happens to be this one right here. I look down and I see that it's 16. I look to the left and I notice that it's 60. Then I got one last dot that's down at 24. And then if I look all the way to the left, I notice that it lines up with 40. So again, I'm going to look at my table to determine the constant rate of change. So I look at 8 to 16. I notice they went up by 8. From 16 to 24, it also went up by 8. All right. So now I'm going to go over here to look at my time. So because these two are the same, these two better be the same also in a linear relationship. All right. So I was at 80 and I went to 60, so it went down 20. So this one went down by 20 also to be a linear relationship. So from 60 to 40, it did go down by 20, and so they match. Each of these matches with each other. So the Y value is going to go on top, which is -20, which is my time, over the number of volunteers, which increased by 8 each time. And so my volunteers, 20, over my time of 8 is the constant rate of change, whether it be 8 minutes, number of volunteers is 8, -20 is the time. So for every 20 minutes it went down, I gained 8 volunteers. All right.